when are we closing? From the lender's point of view, when are we closing? If I'm asking.
Yeah, and it is. It's the question that gets asked every time, several times throughout the transaction. And at first, so the process starts, you look for a home, you find a home, you make an offer, your offer's accepted, you do a home inspection, you sign contract. And on that contract is what's known as the on or about closing date. But well before that, you should have an idea of when you are closing. When can the seller vacate? Does the seller already have some place to go? When are you going to be ready to move in terms of school year, children, the sale of your home, the vacancy of the property of where you live now? So let's just say you're the luckiest person I know, and all of that falls into place on a day that is agreeable to the buyer and to the seller. So from the bank's position, I always thought with my clients was, well, when do you want to close? Not to make it that simple, but when do you want to close? And we'll get close to a date, and this starts before they even find a home as they're making offers, because that could change from the house that they saw on Washington Avenue to the house that they love on Lake Drive to the house that they saw on First Street. All those sellers may or may not be ready to vacate when you're ready to vacate. But let's say it's a vanilla loan and everything is perfect. Typically, you're going to close as soon as the title is clear, because by that time...
Oh, where's that buck? Oh, let's pass the buck.
Because honestly, by that time, listen, we've all been doing this long enough, and Patty brought this up. The sooner the better. Bring me in the loop, sooner versus better. Same thing with your attorney. Everything is very transparent. Everything is full disclosure. Everything is about, I say this all the time, pre-positioning. Everything. So we've done transactions hundreds a year that we can almost forecast that's going to be a problem. We're going to need more time. This is going to be a slam dunk. One buyer, one job, one bank account.
I'm usually told, oh, everything's moving along great. Title's in, everything looks good. Yeah. We're on track. So right. I'll tell my seller, expect about 2 to 4 weeks outside of on track.
Yeah.
So she said, when title's clear, when title's clear, we're good, right? Okay, so when are we closing?
So it's hard being on title in New York because there's so many people involved, right? Mm-hmm. We're relying on sales attorney to send us information. He's not working or she's not working on that one file. If she's got, or he's got multiple files going on, and we're at the mercy of that attorney. Like we can't call the seller and be like, hey, we need this. We can't call the listing agent and be like, you know what, can you help us get this document from the seller, because then the attorney gets annoyed. So we wait and we wait and we wait, and we're trying to, sometimes we just need one document to get us to the closing table, but it took sometimes the attorney like a week and a half to get back to us. So again, the sooner we get back at the sooner we get on it, the better off we are. Right. The sooner that you engage with the title company, the quicker we get to that point.
But sometimes you're held also at the mercy of, if it's the incorporated village of Port Jeff, or then you can call every day and they're going to be like, no, not yet, soon,
exactly.
Call next week.
Yeah.
So you're at the mercy of the other people.
Right.
So oftentimes I'll call the attorney and say, hey, when are we closing? And they'll say, well, we don't even have the clear to close yet.
Yeah. Like Holly, and then it goes back to you.
So,
that's exactly what
I'm a seller. I'm buying down in South Carolina. They're telling me that my closing date is on the 14th.
Right.
We had an on or about of the 1st of that same month. Am I going to be able to close by the 14th so that I can close on my next property? When am I closing?
Well, sometimes the realtors, but realistically, the dates are prepared during the negotiation process. Mm-hmm. They're established by you guys, and we take that lead. And sometimes we can tell based on whether there's a solar contract, is it a co-op and I have to get stock and lease, are there open permits? I can tell from the moment I'm looking at that sales agreement that I'm not going to be able to meet the expectations of the parties that were at the negotiation table way before I came on to the deal. So we try to, at contract, make it reasonable with what's really going on. We do ask our sellers, where are you headed? And what happens if you have a date certain somewhere else and I can't meet that date? Do you need the money from this to go into there? Mm-hmm. Most of the time the answer is yes.
Yeah.
They can ask for extensions out of state, and often they will get them once without too much of a problem, understanding that they know what a New York transaction is like. But once they start asking for more than one extension or more than 15 days, it becomes problematic. But we can gauge from the beginning with a little bit of detail, oriented information gathering about the property, about the seller situation, about the buyer situation. The buyers could be getting kicked off a couch somewhere. Their lease could be expiring.
Right.
They could be living in mom, and mom is selling with mom, and their mom's selling. With all of that information, we try to come to as close a time period as to what's realistic as we can. But generally speaking, on or about should be 60 days from the date we enter into contract. On or about by local custom means the date in the contract has a 30-day window attached to it. So if it's on or about May 1st, it anticipates a closing between May 1st and June 1st.
Right.
If I have a full 60 days, that's reasonable. If it's on or about that 60th day and I have 90 days, that's best case scenario. And everybody in the transaction should be able to get us to the table. Title.
What about
and
these
lender.
lenders that tell me all the time, we can get this closed in 15 days? No problem. We can get this closed in 30 days.
I tell
no
you,
problem. I get it from lenders, loan officers all the time trying to sell
me.
I don't know.
I say 30 days, not me.
I don't know how they say that when they don't have title in front of them.
Right.
Because you can't put
Exactly.
any time frame on a
Exactly.
closing without title.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and everybody says, look, in the beginning when the question says, how soon can I close? I say, how soon does everyone want to close?
Yeah.
Because not just you. I mean, so again, like best case, my guy's ready. I got, the vanilla loan, one guy, one job, one bank account, no gift, no sale of his home, and he's been pre-approved, and there's nothing left for him to do.
147 transactions in the past 9 years. I
You've
don't think I've had that yet.
You've had a couple of them with me. But again, it's all about the communication is key. And we've all been on the other side of the table where they'd be like, call the attorney. Or the listing agent never told me. Or I'm waiting on the title. We've all been there. So
Right.
it all boils down to is know who your partners are and know who you're doing business with. And like you said, certain title companies, you're like, maybe not. Maybe we should reconsider.
What happens, so we have an on or about date.
Right.
You said there's a 30-day window on that. So May 1st, on or about closing, could be June 1st.
Right.
What happens when that May 1st passes?
Well, if everybody in the transaction has been prepped properly, they understand that that's not the date for closing.
Doesn't mean anything, right?
Doesn't mean anything. I often say it's picked out of thin air. It's a target date.
Mm-hmm.
It's a window, and that's the first day of the window.
Yeah.
Often we can close earlier if everybody is on board. Often June 1st comes in that situation.
So what happens when June 1st? That's
New York has no penalties in our contract. So we can have an on or about date of May 1st. Everybody thinks it's closing between May 1st and June 1st. June 2nd comes, June 3rd comes. Title isn't clear, lender isn't clear, seller's purchase fell through, they have nowhere to go. Buyer had a problem, whatever the issue is, if June 1st comes and we haven't closed, I can, whether I'm buyer or seller, send what's called a time is of the essence letter to the other side,
And that gives them how much
demanding that
longer?
we close 14 days. Some people
another
say
two-
15,
so another 2
another
weeks.
2 weeks.
So-
And
so
there's
we're
no penalty
40
attached to that either.
We're 44 days past our on or about date.
And there's nothing I can do if we don't close in that time frame. We do threaten to keep the deposit, but the honest answer is that no attorney is releasing a deposit to a seller if the on or about date has passed or the date in the contract has passed. It's a liability for me to do so. The contract says I had to put you on notice that I could release the money to the seller, but I'm certainly going to get sued personally and professionally, as is my seller if I do that. The reality is you have to talk to everybody in the transaction. I have to know who the players are. I have to know what the real time frame is. And if the deal is having a slow death, then often we just need to have that conversation, be realistic about it. Let's say our deal is dying and my seller has been out 60 days plus 15, 75 days, 90 days plus 15, 105 days. We as the seller will ask to keep the deposit from the buyers. If they say no, I have to hold the money until there's an agreement or the court tells me that there's a litigation that says where the money goes. Often we will come up with a number. a certain amount will be forfeited by the buyer and given to the seller to cover their expenses. What were their carrying costs? What did they lose? Did they have a property that they couldn't buy and they lost their deposit for that property? In some cases, we have buyers that only have a $5,000 or a $10,000 deposit.
I was gonna say, doesn't this circle right back
It
to
does.
the FHA buyer, the 3%, 5% down buyer versus the 20% down buyer?
There's less risk for those buyers at the end of the day if the deal falls apart.
And don't get me wrong, I love FHA, I love VA. My bread and butter was first time home buyer FHA pre-COVID.
We're in Patchogue.
Right.
Patchogue is an up and coming area, and we have lots of young people coming in buying their first homes in Patchogue.
We did. Now they can't touch it. Then we got to get them outside of the village because it has
They
exploded.
still are first time home buyers, but they're
And
just making
that
a
was my
heck of a lot
bread
more
and butter.
money than the ones that were buying 5 years ago.
The
Yeah,
reality
that's the
is
truth.
the amount of cash that came into the system, the amount of buyers that came from the city and moved out to the suburbs that were 20% and more down, that were a lot of cash. They were hiding in duffel bags or under their
Right,
pillow. I don't
absolutely.
know.
Where did
They were living
Yeah.
on mom's couch
Right.
somewhere,
A lot of cash
kids.
came
and
into
they're
the
making
market.
$150,000 a year, and they're 30 years
Banking.
old, and that's
But now my
that's who's
conversation
buying in
is,
Patchogue.
hey, the buyer's got a 620 score. We'll be able to get them an FHA. They're going to need a concession. They don't have enough
Yeah.
to close.
I mean, the concession conversation hasn't been brought up with me in a very long time.
I've gotten it 2 or 3 times in the past month or so.
Yeah.
Guys, here's the way I put it, and I don't mean to be harsh, I mean to be real. This is the Olympics of home buying. All right? This past year and a half, 2 years, and what we're in now is the Olympics of home buying, and only the best are going to get homes. The rest need to be sitting on the sidelines.
Right.
They-
Yeah.
But how long do they need to sit for? Right?
Well,
Like,
they
when does
need-
this market change is the
Yeah.
problem, right?
I mean-
they need to be sitting on that sideline, saving some more cash,
Right.
getting their credit scores
Yeah,
higher,
100%.
and getting into a better position to buy.
Yeah.
As the market values are increasing and the
And
interest rates are
going up.
increasing, it's
It's a complicated market.
complicated.
Yeah.
It's a complicated market.
It's not easy. Yep.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. This
Thank
was
you
a
for
lot of
having
fun.
me.
Yeah.
You're
A lot
welcome.
of fun. Well, we'll do this, maybe at a bar next time and a couple drinks in hand.
I'm in. Or golf course, or wherever you want to go.
Because I think what it comes down to, whenever you're going into a purchase or a sale of a property, you want to work with professionals. You want to work with those who can find the in and outs and the ways to actually make it work, even when there are issues, because there's always going to be issues. There's always going to be a speed bump that we encounter. And working with people that play nicely in the sandbox together, that can get the deal done, I think really is key. Following the lead of your realtor and who they suggest you work with. Right? We don't steer you in any one direction as to who you need to be working with. We let you know who we have relationships with in the business that we've worked with on multiple transactions and got the deal done, got it to the closing table. That's why you want to follow the lead of your realtor. Thanks again for watching, guys. Kyle Kelly from the Island Wide Team at eXp Realty. You can always reach out to me at 631-831-0912. I'm going to drop all the contact information for our guests right at the end of this. Make sure you follow, make sure you like, make sure you share this with somebody who's thinking about buying or selling a home so we can get the information to their hands. Once again, thanks for following, thanks for watching. Thank you so much, guys. Have a great night.